Hello everyone. In this video, I have shown how to insert the data into the database through Node.js. And I have also shown, I'm also going to show how to get the data from the form and then insert it into the database. So we're going to see a connection, how to establish connection between the backend and the front end. So we're going to see the connection between the backend and the front end, and we're going to see how to insert data into the database through Node.js. So in the previous video, we have seen how to retrieve data from the database and then how to retrieve the data from the database and project it on an HTML form. Let's see how to insert data into the database. So herein, if you remember, we had made use of mySQL and we had made use of Express to retrieve data from the database according as per some condition, right? So let's see how to insert it. Okay, so I'm going to make a new JS file. So I'm going to name it as data3.js. Okay, now to establish connection with the database, the code will be same. Okay, so I'm going to copy the code that I had used while retrieving data from the database. So I'm going to copy this code. Okay, this is basically for establishing connection with the database, and I'm going to put it here. Okay, and let's see. So my database is already created. So this is my database, right? This is my database, and my intention is to add data into this database through Node.js. Okay, so let's see. And as I said, the connection code will be same, right? Okay, now let's see how to insert it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a query. I'm going to create a query to insert the data. Okay, and first of all, I'll make the data. Okay, so I'll create a data. I'm going to say student ID is, let's say, 777. Name, I'm going to name Maria. Let's see if Maria is already there. Yes. So let's use another name. Well, you can use the same name as well. I'm just using another name to avoid any confusion. And GPA, I'll put it as 3.3. Okay. Now I'll create a query. Now to add into a database, we use an insert query. Okay. So I'll say con.query. And I'll write the query insert into my table name, which is students, right? Table name students set question mark, okay, student, and then it will take a function. Well, most of the database, whenever you want to insert some data, you can make use of this code. Okay, depending upon which column are you trying to insert the data. So you'll have to modify the code accordingly. Okay, this we have already seen the explanation. So if there is an error, it will say, or we say that if error dot, okay, so this is the error that will occur. This error will occur if you are trying to insert a duplicate data, okay, especially in the student ID. So student ID does not allow you to enter duplicate data. If you remember, while creating the database, I had explained that student ID is a primary key, okay. What it means by primary key is you cannot have duplicate data in any of the row. Okay, so if my student ID is 123, I cannot have any other row that have the same student ID. So each value in each row is unique. Okay, the value in each row is unique. That is, what does it mean by primary key? Okay, so it cannot have a duplicate value. And if you're trying to insert a duplicate value, it will give you an error. Okay, and that error is your 1062. Okay, so herein I'll write, if this error occurs, you're gonna say console.log cannot insert duplicate ID. Okay, and I'm just gonna print that ID that you're trying to insert. Okay, now else, if everything goes correct, then, okay, so this is one error. Another error, if there is any other error other than the duplicate ID. So again, I would like to print it. Okay, these are helpful while debugging the code. Okay. Okay. Okay, else if everything goes correct. Okay, so this if the error occurs, either it is a duplicate data or any other error, then this one, this if else will execute. Okay, otherwise, okay, else. So now this else is a part of this if. Okay, this if. Okay, let me just, yeah. Okay, else I'm gonna say that the data is inserted. So console.log inserted. I'm gonna say plus result dot affected rows. Okay, so how many rows are inserted? That is what it is going to print. Okay, so this is how your code will look like. Okay, easy peasy, right? So what I tried to do here is, again, the connection code will be same. Okay, this code, this connection code and express code will be same. Okay, now, so I tried to insert using this query, insert into, this is my table name, students is my table name, set with this query. Okay, so insert into students set. Instead of this question mark, this student string will come, which is over here, okay, wherein I have written the student ID's value is this, name is this, GPA is this, and function, error and result. Error, if the error is 1062, it means you're trying to insert a duplicate value in a column, which is a primary key. Otherwise, print the other error that has occurred. Else, if everything goes fine, insert the data into the database, right? Okay, and then you're gonna say app dot listen. So app dot listen and use the port. Okay, so Control S and here, and because my server was still on, okay, and let's do Control S one more time, and here in I'm gonna run it node dot data 3.js. Okay, let's run this code. Okay, and it is showing cannot insert because it is a duplicate value. Let's see. Okay, yeah, because see, it 777 already exists. So I'm trying to insert a duplicate value and it gave me an error. If you'll see here, it is giving me an error, cannot insert duplicate ID. Right? Cannot insert duplicate ID, and it is not printing the ID because I wrote it as STUID and actually it should be STUDID, right? Student ID, because my column name is student ID. Okay, let's run the code again. And I'm gonna say this, first I'll save this. Okay, and let me show you one more time, okay? And now see, it is saying cannot insert duplicate ID 777. Okay, so what I will do is I'll use other ID. So what was ID 777? I'll use it as maybe 779. Okay, save the code, execute again. And now see, it is saying inserted one row. Okay, let's go to the database. Let me refresh it and see that data is inserted in the database, right? The data that I am trying to insert, it is inserted into the database. This much portion of the code, I hope, is clear, right? This is how you insert data into the database. Now let's see how to connect this insertion with the front end. Okay, so we're going to see the connection between the back end and the front end. So let's see. So I'm going to create an HTML page and I'm trying to use this code. Okay, and let me create an HTML page. So I'm going to name it as, okay, I'll say database demo dot html. Well, these are not good names to be given to the HTML forms, but because I am explaining it, demonstrating it, I just gave this name. You can give any other name to your HTML page. Okay, and I'm gonna clear this terminal. Okay. Okay, let's create a HTML page and shift exclamation mark, enter, and the code is ready for you. Right, so I'm going to create a form and I'm going to say form method equals to post action equals to create. Okay, so this create is the name of the app that I am going to call. Okay. Label name or label, and I'm gonna write it as name, and here run input type equals to text, name equals to name. Okay. Well, you can use a div as well. You can make the HTML form the way you want to make it. And I'll try to insert the GPA. So this time I'm trying to insert the name and the GPA. Okay, in my table. So name and GPA, I have defined it here. I will copy this. Text, type is text, name equals to, I'll name it as GPA. Okay, and okay, where is this extra P coming from? Okay, and then you have input type equals to submit value equals to save. And then you have end of form, end of body, and end of HTML, right? So I have created an HTML form, and let's run this and see how does it look. Access this app, okay. Okay, so this is how it will look like, right? Name and GPA, and it has a save button. So our motive is when I click on save button, it should save this data into the database. The data that you're entering here should be saved to the database. That is what is the motive. Okay. That means when I am inserting some values here, whatever value I'm inserting here, for example, I'm inserting TL and GPA, let's say 3.2. And when I click on save, this data should be inserted into the database. Okay, that is my motive. So let's write the code for this one. And again, the connection code will be same. Okay. Let's see. Okay. I'm going to create one more file for this one. Okay. And I'm going to name it as data or just frontend data.js. Okay. Now again, your code for connection will be same, right? So I'm going to copy this code, okay, till this part, till you wrote the code for connection. So I'm going to copy and paste that much portion of the code, okay, because that will be used to connect to the database, okay. Now you're extracting data from the database, right? So you'll have to, no, you're extracting data from the form and try to put it into the database. So for that, you'll have to write some, you'll have to parse URL encoded bodies, okay. So for that, I'll write it here, parse URL encoded bodies, and just write the code for that one. I'm going to say app dot use express dot URL encoded, and it takes an argument extended is true. Okay. So what this will do is, generally what happen, either you can convert it into it JSON file, or you can use, if you're taking it from a form, you can directly write the URL encoded extended true. Okay, and then serve as a static file. So app dot use express dot static from that directory name. Okay, now it is double underscore. Okay, I have written 2 underscore here. Okay, it will serve as static file. Serve static file. Well, these things are common. Okay, whenever you try to retrieve the data from the form, these things are common. So you can use the same code. Okay, now let's see. Now we are using in the form, we're using this post method, right? There are two methods which you can use, get and post, right? Get, the information that you're submitting in the form will be written on, will be appended in the string over here. Okay, so for example, something like this, name is Tia and GPA 3.4. Okay, that happens in the get method. But if you use a post method, this information won't be there. Okay, it will not be appended in the query string. Okay, so post is more secure. Okay, that's the thing that you should always remember, okay, about get and post. Okay, so let's now design the code for that. Okay, so I'm going to say app.post. Till now we were using app.get, right? So herein I'm going to use app.post create. Now herein, if you see, herein action is equals to create. It will call this, right? So that's why I wrote it as post create, and then create again a function that have request and response, and this function will have an opening and closing curly brace. Okay, so whatever we're going to write inside this function. Now get values from the form. Get values from the form. Okay, now I'm going to create a variable. I'm going to say request dot body. So whatever is in the form will come in this variable or variable object, that is student, right? And if you want to test, you can print it over here, okay, just to test. So I'll just say form data, okay, and I'm gonna say print this student, okay. Now whatever you are going to when the form is being submitted, whatever data is being entered into the text field will come in this variable. And to test your code, you can just try to print it and check. Okay. Now, if you remember, we to insert the data, okay, so the data is in this object student, okay, and I want to insert that data. So I'm going to say connection con dot query. So this will be similar to how we have inserted data into the database, right? So I'll say insert into my table name, that is students. Okay. What do you want to insert? Where do you want to insert? I want to insert the name and I want to insert the GPA. Now, be very careful when you write the name of the columns here, okay. These column names should match with the column name that you have provided in the database. If n is uppercase, n should be uppercase here. If GPA is written in all uppercase, it should be written all in uppercase there. The name of the table should also match. If it is students, it should be students. It should not be student with an absence of S in that. No, it should match, okay? Otherwise, because when it tries to connect to the database, it might not find the table if the table name is wrong. So insert into students name and GPA values, and I'll put two question marks, okay? And these values will be retrieved from an array, right? So it will be retrieved from an array which is inside the square bracket. And what does it says? This object student, okay, student dot name, okay, and student dot name comma student dot GPA, student dot GPA, okay, comma function again err comma result, okay. And then if there is an error, if there is an error, I'll say response error else response dot send inserted. I have simplified the error statement, okay. You could have used the error that I have shown while inserting the data. I've just written it in a simplified form, okay. If everything is correct, you can write it as inserted student with ID and you can print that ID, okay. So plus I can say result dot student ID, sorry, insert ID. So result dot insert ID. It's over here. Okay, so my code is complete here, okay, and I'll just remove the spaces, okay, and then you have to assign app.listen, right, at some port. And I'm going to assign that port to 5000. And just to print that the server is running on port, I'll do it different way this time. You can directly write it as like this app.listen, but I'm going to show you another way that you can do it. And I'm going to say const port equals to 5000. Okay, that is set your desired port. And then I'm going to say app.listen port, take a function which will return, okay, and this will return console.log. I'm going to say server is running on port, and I'm going to print the port. Okay, and we're going to use the template return, not the double quotes. So I'm going to use a template literal because I have used that notation here. Okay, so this is template literal. Okay, this is backtick. This is not a single quote. Okay, and that completes my code. You could have directly written as app.listen, okay, but just to show you how you can print that server is running so that you get an indication that the server is running, I just wrote it like this, okay. Let me format this code, and Alt Shift F will format your code. Okay, so if you will see, okay, this is how the code looks like, okay. So this one is the connection code. This till this point, till line number 19 is your connection code that we have used in other programs as well, okay. The only two extra lines that I have added is these two, okay, because we are retrieving data from the form now, okay. We're not directly inserting, we're getting the data from the form and then inserting into the database, right? Now herein, because we use the post method, I wrote it as app.post, and this in the form, if you'll see, I've used this action is equals to create. That means it is going to call this one. So that is why the first argument that goes over here is create, right? When the save button is clicked, it is going to call this. Then again, function request response is common. I created an object that will retrieve the data in the HTML page. Okay. Now from that data, we have to retrieve the name and the GPA, right? So the way we can access that is this object name student.name, student.gpa. And we know about this insert query, right? Insert into students name comma GPA values student.name student.gpa function err and result. Now this name and this GPA that you see, okay, should match with this name and this GPA that you have provided here. Okay, if you are not matching this might give you an error. Okay, actually this will give you an error. So other things are same, like you provide a function here with an error and a result. If there is an error, it will be displayed. If not, then you're gonna display that inserted student with ID and result dot insert ID. Okay, result is like your temporary table. Now, herein you can directly write it as app.listen or can use this convention just to show that the server is running on that port. Okay, this is not post, but this is port. Okay, now let's see. Now let's run the code and let's hope that this code works. Okay, and I'm gonna first save it. So I'm gonna say Control S, and herein I'm gonna say node. Okay, node and dot this, and this is front end data dot js, right? Front end data dot js. So let's see. I'm gonna run this code. Okay, it says that server is running on port 5000, but it did not printed the student. Okay, let's see. So I'm gonna go here. Okay, and herein it's the local host, right? Local host, and the port is 5000, right? Okay, local host, and I'm gonna write it as student.html. Okay, so here I'm gonna write it as Not students. What is the name of whatever is the name of your HTML file? It is database demo.html. Okay. And I'm going to write it as database demo.html. It's asking to enter the name and the GPA. So I'm going to enter the name as Tia and GPA, let's say 2.3. That's quite low. Okay, just let's say save. And it is saying inserted student with ID 780. Okay, so let's check in our database, is it actually inserting or not? Okay, and I will refresh my database. Oh, good. So it has inserted the data that I entered into the form, right? TIA and 2.3. Now, if you'll see the student ID, I did not inserted the student ID, but student ID is generated on its own. Why? Because if you remember, when I created this database, which I've shown in the first video, when I created this database, I had assigned an auto increment attribute to student ID. Okay, so that which means that if you do not enter a student ID, it will insert a student ID that is unique on its own. Okay, so for example, if you'll see, okay, so if you'll click on this, if you'll hover your mouse on student, you'll see these three icons, and if you'll click on the second icon, this is how it looks like, right? So if you'll see this student ID, in this student ID, if you'll see this auto increment is clicked, right? There is a tick on this auto increment, AI. This AI is not artificial intelligence. This is auto increment in database. Okay, so which means that if you do not insert a student ID, it will insert a student ID on its own. It will create a student ID, and that will have a unique value. Okay, again, I got this table by hovering over the student table and clicking on this center icon here. Okay, if you do not want to go with the graphical user interface, and if you think that you're very good at the databases, you can write a query or write a code for it. So the code that we write in database, we call it as query, Query. Okay. Otherwise, as I said, the beauty about mySQL Workbench is it provides a very good graphical user interface, a very user-friendly interface that you can use. Okay, for creating the database, inserting the values, etc. Now, what I would suggest is whatever I have shown in this video, please follow along, write the code on your own, because unless you write the code on your own, you're not going to learn coding. Okay, so write the code on your own, test the code, and execute the code. Okay, see if the data is being inserted or not. If you get an error, please feel free to email me or reach out to me through office hours, or just email me. And um, just do not hesitate to email me. Okay, well, your assignment for this week is also based on what I have shown you in the video. Okay, so in your assignment, you're going to create a similar table. Okay, not the exact same table, but the table has the same structure as I have shown here with a different column name. Okay, and you're going to get the data from the form and going to insert it into the database. Okay, I hope you have understood whatever I have explained in this video. And as I said, please feel free to email me if you have any questions or any doubt. With that, I wish you all the best for this assignment. Happy coding. Thank you for watching this video.